The first thing that I want to do is congratulate you
Thank you.
on your award and winning. And the first question that I had for you is, how did you get interested in this industry?
Well, it's going to make me sound almost prehistoric, but I grew up before the internet and basically learned how to read reading the morning newspaper. And that was the highlight. Read the whole thing, but the sports section was special. Read the standings. That's how again, it sounds crazy to kids, but that's how you find out who won the night before. You didn't have the internet, you didn't have even cable TV when I was really young. And I was just fascinated by the whole idea that the world was at your doorstep every morning with this newspaper, and you could find out what was happening in sports and all over the place. And that just seemed like a great thing to be part of. And as I grew up through middle school, high school, it just seemed, like a lot of kids, you dream of being a professional athlete, but once you figure out that's not going to happen,
Yeah.
being around the sports world and getting to write about it. And I always enjoyed writing, uh, and getting to talk to people and tell their stories. That just seemed really appealing to me. And so it wasn't a thing that a lot of people stumble into it. A lot of people start out on other paths and wind up there. I've kind of been on that path my whole life. Like the job I have now is the one I dreamed of having when I was 15 years old. So, like for the newspaper that I grew up reading. So, it's not a long winding road to where I got, but it's one that worked out.
That's like really awesome to hear because as a girl interested in like working in sports or doing something in sports, I didn't start just now thinking that's what I want to do. I grew up in a
Mhm.
sports household, a sports family. And so it's always been something that's like sparked my interest in what I want to keep
Mhm.
continuing. Take us through your path from your first job to where you are now.
That's another one that is not going to be a novel. It was pretty straightforward. I grew up in a small town near San Antonio. Like I said, I grew up reading the San Antonio Express News. Went to college at the University of Texas at Austin, to major in journalism. And at the University of Texas, I immediately, the first week there, went down to the Daily Texan, the student newspaper. Wanted to work there. That's what I wanted to do. And during that time, kind of got to know sports writers throughout the state, especially sports writers from the San Antonio paper, the guys that I grew up reading, and asked, how can I get involved? How can I take the next step? And basically volunteered to cover as a stringer, what they call a stringer, a freelancer in college, high school games, any kind of UT sporting event that the Express News was not covering with a staffer. I could say, hey, I could send something to you. So I got a relationship with that newspaper while I was working for the college paper. And the people at the Express News in San Antonio got to know me as a college student. Um, when I graduated, there was not a job in San Antonio available, but they knew me. And so my first job out of college was with the Associated Press in Dallas. And that was what they call a vacation relief. This is a long, long time ago, the fall of 1999, before the turn of the century. Um, and vacation relief at the Associated Press, it was the major bureau covering several states in the Southwest. And is basically my job was to fill in for everyone. So I would do overnight desk duties. I would go out and cover news, cover, crime, politics, whatever was happening in the city that day. There was a big fen trial that I covered a long time ago, and while doing sports stuff, which is what I really wanted to do. But the news background really helped me down the line to learn how to do a little bit of everything. And so while I was covering sports stuff, that was less than a year. Um, I would fill in with Rangers, fill in with colleges, fill in with was there a little bit of Cowboys, um, all the while kind of keeping in contact with the people back in San Antonio. And less than a year into that, a job opened up in San Antonio to cover minor league sports. They had a hockey team and a double A baseball team, and I was all over it and jumped at it. And so that was 25 years ago, and I've been at the newspaper ever since. Just to prolong the answer, because that was such a quick jump to my endpoint, the journey at the Express News has been a little bit of everything. Everything in the sports department I've covered. I did the minor league sports. I did back in the early 2000s when newspapers really covered the heck out of college sports. There were national college basketball writers, national college football writers. I did a little bit of that, covering Big 12. And then and Spurs through it all. I was part of our Spurs team, and so I've really had my hand in the Spurs coverage for a long, long time. Um, but in 2009, that was the part of newspaper history where the companies are really cutting back and trying to consolidate. And we were owned by a corporation called the Hearst Corporation, who owns several newspapers throughout the country, including the Houston Chronicle. And so that's when we started consolidating beats, where the Express News and Chronicle people would, or the Express News and Chronicle would share coverage. So that was kind of an interesting moment in my career, in that the Chronicle kind of recruited me to cover the University of Texas, my alma mater, for the entire state, for newspapers throughout the state, that for Hearst. And that was a job that I had for 7 years, covering the Texas Longhorns for the Houston Chronicle, the San Antonio Express News, the Beaumont Enterprise, Laredo Morning Times, all down the line. And then the other moment, job shift came at the end of that, 2017. I became the columnist, the lead columnist in San Antonio, moved back. And like I said before, that was the specific job that I wanted a long, long, long time ago, to be the columnist at the paper I grew up reading. Now, it isn't the job that existed in the 1990s. It's not the glamour job where you go around and you make all the money and you cover Wimbledon and the Super Bowl and basically every big story every week. Papers don't spend the money anymore, but it's still pretty cool. Still got to do a lot of things. Covered a lot of national championship games, a lot of NBA finals, a couple of Olympics. So it's been I have no complaints about where I ended up. It is a different job than it used to be, but it's still quite a privilege.
Well, to go off of that, for everyone watching and for myself in general, what do you think about how important is it to network and meet people? Because based off your story, that's how you got all your jobs, because you jumped at it and you met other people to get you into the paper and everything.
Right. And that just seemed, it was almost fanboyish. When I was in college, it was like, these are the sports writers that have done this forever, and like I want to pick their brain, and I want to, um not just annoy them. Like, you don't want to go up and say, I want to do your job and that kind of thing. Like, that's kind of over the top, and some people do that. And like, there's different levels to how you can approach that. But I think one thing you want to do is say, hey, introduce yourself. And I was delusional probably, but I thought that when I was covering UT for the Daily Texan, the student newspaper, that like I was competing with the Statesman and competing with the Express News and competing with the Dallas Morning News. And like, I wanted to show those guys that, hey, I can chase the same stories that you do. I can tell the stories the same way you tell them, even better. And that's not really accurate when you're in college. Like, you're not really doing the same job as the professionals are, but you can, I think, by pretending to do it or acting like you're doing it, you end up doing it. And you don't have the experience that those professionals have, but if you take it seriously and show you can do it, and just express a willingness to do what you need to do to get there, I think that will make an impact without you having to like suck up to those people, if that makes any sense. Like, just prove yourself in that way. And by the way, like, you have far more insight into what your path is, like who those people are that you want to be, than I do. Like, it's not newspaper writers anymore, obviously. Like, I don't know who it is that you want to be, but you see, like, take those people and try to do what they do, I think is the right approach. And in networking, I one thing that I find annoying about the whole networking thing is when people treat it like it's transactional. I think that to look at networking like you're just trying to learn. You're trying to show people that you can do things and don't expect a job out of every relationship. Like that gets kind of off-putting to people where they can see through it and think, oh, this person just wants to know me for what I can do for them.
Yeah,
If you express a genuine interest in what they do and and show that you respect the job, I think that that goes a long way.
I agree. Thank you for that. And is there any more advice that you want to give while we're still here?
I think that you'd sent me that question earlier, and I sort of struggled with it because I'm not sure that an old fogey like me can has much insight into this new media landscape, which I struggle to adapt to every day too. But I think my hope is that the ability to tell a story that no one has heard before, to uncover information or just a narrative or a just a story that people don't know, and do your original reporting instead of having a take, instead of aggregating what other people do. I think if you can show the ability to produce original work that from talking to people, interviewing people, uh, provide something different. I think that always will have um, a place in hopefully journalism and just in this modern environment that we're all in. And I realize that a lot of entry level jobs now are aggregating and are taking from other sources and social media and that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to dump on that and say you can't do that because obviously that's the way up. But I think that if there's one overriding piece of advice, it's like find something you can do that somebody else hasn't done. Tell stories that no one else has told, and hopefully there'll always be a market for that. And I think there will be.
Well, thank you so much for that. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much.